Hello everybody, my name's Spicy and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be on my main account and I'm going to be talking to you guys on how you can start progressing and continue progressing in Raid Shadow Legends in 2023. Now I know this might be a broad topic and kind of out of nowhere as I'm usually a takeover channel. That's kind of been my brand, but I recently started going through a game called Watcher of Realms and I've noticed that there's a lot that I don't think about on Raid that I'm taking into account on Watcher, and it's just kind of something that it's natural to me, but some people might not quite understand. So let's go ahead and get through this. First of all, when you're starting out the game, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your first 60. Usually that's going to be your Kale, your Elhain, your Gaelic. Recently, it's probably going to be your Wukong, depending on where you are, if you got him or not. Wukong being a very amazing champion, he's going to be a great campaign farmer and definitely somebody who would be worth going ahead and maxing first. Now, once you get through the first few steps, getting up until the next progression step, which is your base 5. Your 5 champions that are going to be taking down your dungeons, taking down your clan boss, taking down mainly Dragon when it comes to dungeons. You want to get through Dragon, get to 20. So in here, you're going to be taking your campaign farmer. So let's just go ahead and grab my Wukong, as that's who I'm saying is gonna be a campaign farmer. And then you're going to need really a poisoner for here and clan boss. Let's go ahead and say you get lucky and you pull a frozen banshee. Frozen Banshee being your next, one of your next 60s. She's in your main 5. She can do some work in Ice Golem, in Dragon, um, and obviously Clan Boss. And then from there, you need to have some protection. Protection is something that a lot of people lose out on as you start up the game. You don't really have the best buffers, you don't have the best cleansers, you don't have the best healers. But let's just say you get lucky, you get an Uko. An Ugo. You get an Ugo, you get a debuffer with decreased defense, and then you get some heals, a cleanse, and a leech. So these are all going into your clan boss. They're gonna do great in Dragon. So easy selection here. She's gonna help you clear through the waves. And then from there, you're looking at, let's say you started up the game and you got the Deacon login. You go ahead and put him in, you max him. Now you have 2 debuffers, which you don't exactly need, but you have a turn meter booster now. That's also going to decrease their turn meter. And for the last person, you pull a rearguard sergeant. Now, in this, you're going to have plenty of protection. You're going to be doing great in clan boss, at least for your stage of where you are. And at this point, you have a solid idea of what the champions you're working with are and how to just use them to gain some gear. Now, let's say a month further than this, you go ahead and pull let's say a couple legendaries through the time. You get a legendary, you get a few good epics, and you're at this point where you need to start progressing in Dragon, Fire Knight. You just need to get everywhere progressing. And that's when you start to have let's say, the first real wall after getting your first 6-star. And that's just not knowing what to do. Because there's so many things to do in the game, and you might just be stuck not knowing where to focus your time and energy. Um, so the biggest thing, as I mentioned before, is farming a lot of Dragon Slayer. When I say a lot, I mean thousands of runs for you to get maybe 100 good pieces. 100 good pieces means you can get through mid game with a solid set of 100 pieces. You farm up your Dragon's Lair, let's say 20,000 energy in total, 30,000 energy in total on 20 or 16, and you move up further, and then you get into 25 or hard of Dragon, and then you're pretty happy. You're doing good in Dragon, so you've gotten past that. Now you're going to move on to Spiders. So Spiders is going to be probably your next big roadblock, depending on who you pull, because you need a certain select amount of champions, well, a certain select few of champions that come into here and do some great work. Now, if you're not too lucky and you don't get a cold heart, you don't get you don't get multiple cold hearts, you don't get a royal guard, your best bet is going to be going into the sacred order and grabbing this uncommon right here named Armiger. He's going to do your turn meter decrease and your enemy max HP hits. Now, he isn't the best champion in the world, but he is the best uncommon without a doubt, and it can really do some work all the way up until the end of normal spider. So with your base, let's say with your base champions, your Wukong, your Deacon, wherever all these champions are, there's a lot of champions, Deacon, Ugo, Frozen Banshee, and Rearguard, you're now given a couple options. So Rearguard is going to most likely come out of this team if I can ever find her. She's just like hiding. There she is. Okay, so you have your base team, and like I said, you pulled a couple champions and you're ready to move on. Let's say you don't want to use Frozen Banshee and you pull a Miscreated, which is going to be one of the best champions for Spider. You pull him, he does his shields, and then you go and get your Armiger, which I don't have one on my account. Let's just go ahead and grab any random champion here. Let's just call this our Armiger right here. So you get these, and now you're left with turn meter control along with decreased defense, another decreased defense, a heal, a cleanse, a big set of shields, a continuous heal on himself, as well as ally protection, your Armiger to set back turn meter along with Deacon, max HP hits, and then Wukong just to kill down the spiders and do some extra damage with his side damage hits, where he's killing one and then doing a big explosion if you decide to manual it at all. And once you get here, and like I said, that's just a little idea of a team, you get through here, and then you finally farming 20 for about let's say a month, 20 for a month, even 17, 16 for a month. You go ahead and get up here, and now you have a decent amount of gear, and you're left with this blank page, not knowing what to do from there. And you keep pulling, you keep playing through this. You definitely need to be maxing out Clan Boss, getting as far as you can, trying to get into Ultra Nightmare. Usually at this point where I'm speaking, where you're at Spider, you're going to go ahead and be doing Nightmare. Maybe Brutal, but usually people are probably about Nightmare at this point, as long as they've been doing their due diligence and getting gear for it. Like I said, in Dragon, getting your lifesteal gear, even without an unkillable team, you can do Nightmare pretty easily. So you're doing Nightmare, you've done Spider up to 20, you're good in Dragon, you don't have any issues there. Your next big thing is going to be focusing on Doom Tower and Fire Knight. So when it comes to Doom Tower, you're really just going to be using your best champions, your absolute best set of champions that are going to do the most work. You have your Wukong, as I mentioned. You have your Deacon for sure still staying in here this whole time. Your Miscreated 100% coming in here to do some work for you. Deacon, where is Deacon? Gosh, champions I picked I don't use. Not to say they're bad champions by any means, they're amazing champions, but I'm past them. So you pull out your Deacon, you pull out your Miscreated, your Wukong, and by this time, let's assume you've pulled one good legendary. You know, you've been playing long enough, you hit your pity, well, assuming this is at pity, and you pull who do you pull? You pull a Tomb Lord. You know, really great champion. It does a lot of stuff for waves, more turn meter, and he's really going to just help you everywhere. You pull your Tomb Lord, now you're able to go ahead and hop into these these levels of maybe Doom Tower Hard or even just finishing out Doom Tower Normal. And at this point, you know what, you're probably at Sil. And this is the team you're working with. You have your turn meter, more turn meter, protection in both of these, and damage along with Tomb Lord and Wukong. Now you're getting through here, and you know what, you're doing pretty solid. No issues in Doom Tower until you get to a certain point where you're just not going to be able to pass until maybe you get a few more champions or whatever. But you've gotten to a good point there. You're doing good in Clan Boss. At this point, you might be in Ultra Nightmare. You might still be in Nightmare, but pushing towards Ultra Nightmare. And once you're in here, you're in Fire Knight. You know what? You're doing 20 because you pulled a Tomb Lord and an Armiger, and you're getting through it just fine. And then you hit your next roadblock, which is really just going to be getting to things. It could just be getting your maxed out Great Hall. Well, one of them to 10. It could be getting to Silver 1 in Tag Team. And these are the times that where I come in and I do takeovers for people. But to break it down just a little bit for you, when you're going into Tag Team and you're building out some teams, let's just look at my teams. I know they're not free-to-play friendly. I know they're not the perfect examples, but they're just ideas that you could take in for yourself. So in this first team, I have a Reviver and a Buff Stripper. I have a Nuker. I have somebody with crowd control, and then I have a Cleanser and an increased defense champion, which could be an increased attack for whoever nuker you're using. Now, throughout most of my teams, I'm following the same type of thing. I have a buff stripper, I have a protector, I have a reviver, and then I have a nuker. On this last team, it's more of a speed team. I have buff strip, and a turn meter booster. I have an ally attack, a reviver, and a nuker. Now, let's just say you are trying to do the same thing, and for one team, you know what, you have your Wukong, he can do buff stripping, he can do nuking, and you're covered in that area. You don't have too many champions yet, but you know what, you still have your Miscreated. Miscreated can come in here and do some good protection for you. From there, your Syl is going to do great work. Syl can never be underrated. A truly amazing champion. And then for your last person, you know what, you're going to bring in your Deacon, because your Deacon is going to do your turn meter boosting, your debuffage, and along with Wukong, who's, I mean, at this point, you kind of want to tune it to where Deacon's going first. But if need be, you can strip the buffs and cycle back around to Deacon, where he can then put decreased defense and you one-shot them. But this is a very free-to-play friendly team right here that you could definitely use even in a normal arena at this point. Just farming up your Great Hall, getting into here, trying to get that Silver 1 maybe in Tag Team Arena, whatever it may be. So you've gotten over many of the big bumps that people hop into just by a little understanding of your champions, the team setup, and where you need to be going. Now, the next thing is going to be gear. Gear throughout this entire thing has been very important. Don't understate it. If you don't quite understand gear, I have a series about gear that I have done before and that I will continue to add on to over time as people are still well, gear keeps getting more and more complex, things get harder and harder, and I'll continue to add to that. But just a few basic build ideas. As I was mentioning throughout this entire thing, you definitely need to see what I'm talking about. So when we are looking at a reviver, you can either go with a regen set, you could go with a bolster, a shield set. For a regen set, let's go ahead and look at my Godseeker. She is a reviver. So Godseeker, we have good HP, we have good defense, and solid speed. That's all you need for most of your revivers. It's just good defense, good speed, and good HP, and maybe some resistance or accuracy depending on who it is. From there, your masteries are going to be looking something a little bit like my Duchess here, where we're going down into timely intervention, getting cycle of revenge, lasting gifts, just making sure we're getting as many turns as possible and keeping our buffs up as much as possible, depending on who your reviver is. For someone like, let's say, Syl, that we've been using so far. Still, she's not going to be in a she isn't going to be in a timely intervention thing. She's really going to be in War Master, so she can help you everywhere else, or even Fearsome Presence to help stun more. I guess I actually do have a build on her, and this is just kind of a mock-up build you could try to copy. 50k HP, 3.7k defense, 198 speed, and 230 accuracy. Again, just a little mock-up build that I probably use for Faction Wars. But yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example of something that you could have at this point in time. You're doing a little bit of Faction Wars, you get your Fire Knight going. From there, let's go ahead and look at our buff strippers slash our nuker. So our buff stripper, let's go ahead and say Kaimar, but not obviously not for you. Let's say your Wukong. If Wukong's just your pure nuker, then it's going to be somebody like a Madam, possibly a Rion the Conjurer, just something like that. So you're going to be focusing really just on speed and accuracy. Speed and accuracy are your complete main focuses on your buff stripper. You want them going very fast, and you want them getting off their buff strip and whatever debuffs they have afterwards, if they have any. Eagle Eye is going to be your main focus here, just so you're extra accuracy and can also boost your speed from there, since you're getting more accuracy here and you're not screwing yourself elsewhere. Now, when it comes to your nuker, which this whole time has been Wukong, we are going to have Wukong focusing attack, speed, crit rate, crit damage, and accuracy. Now, let's assume you can't get the accuracy along with other things. Now, mine doesn't have that much accuracy, but it isn't a perfect build yet. I'm still working on it. But you can get everything but the accuracy, so just worry about making him a nuker. That's perfectly fine. He's a great nuker, one of the better ones in the game, and for sure worth making your main nuker. So you just want to, at the beginning, you're probably not going to have the sets. You're probably not going to have the lethal or the savage. Don't worry about that. Just get the stats, especially considering this A2 is absolutely amazing, and I need to get him booked now I'm thinking about it. Definitely book your Wukong. 30% more damage and a cooldown reduction. I need to book him. But just get your attack, your speed, your crit rate, your crit damage, and then your masteries are going to be looking something a little bit like this, and just going down in a master hexer at the end. Sorry this hasn't been the perfect showcase, guys. Missing a mastery, missing some books. I'm really unprepared. Apologies. But yeah, so Wukong, he's coming in as your nuker, and then for your protector, let's say your miscreated monster, just somebody who's coming in as pure support, who isn't there for reviving or anything. My miscreated monster is currently in just a Faction Wars build, but it makes sense for miscreated monster. But I'm going to be explaining the little bit of difference that you want usually. So in your miscreated, you're going to be looking for high HP, as high HP as you can, along with the other stats that we're going to mention. Along with this high HP, you're going to look for high defense. Try to get them around 3k defense if you can, along with high HP. Okay to good speed. Usually you want them a little bit faster than your nuker maybe. It doesn't have to be, but just a little rule of thumb to go by. And then your crit rate on a miscreated, you want at 100%, and you want his accuracy looking good so you can get these stuns out and get big shields. Now, as you can see, mine is fully awakened, has some extra stats just for damage, and that's that. But usually, if we're looking at a protector, you're going to be going down into something like, going to be looking at bulwark, or you're going to be looking at iron skin, or even timely intervention. But if it's miscreated, you're probably going to be going down in a Helm Smasher, as you just want him having huge shields for your spider, and you're probably going to be crossing these builds with everything else, so do keep that in mind. This is probably going to be the build you're going to be using everywhere on him. But that, again, is just some ideas for different things that you're going to be doing to keep your teams going and stats to focus. Now, at this point, we've really gotten far. At this point, you're probably pretty much in a almost late game. I'd say the end of mid game. You're starting to get your faction wars going. You're trying to get your faction wars done to get your Lydia. Here you're getting a lot of your good perception gear, and maybe you've been able to finish your first Doom Tower thing, and at this point you're going to be maybe not your first full Doom Tower hard, but some of Doom Tower hard and finish normal. At this point you're going to be trying to get your normal done. So your normal Hydra is what I'm saying. Like your normal Hydra, maybe even your hard Hydra. This is where you want to be going next. You're going to be trying to get this stone skin gear. You're going to be getting this clan gold and these mortal soul stones, and through this you're focusing that down to help with everywhere else, as protection gear can work as a speed set. As we can see here, this was basically a quad roll, and I turned it into a speed set with one of these accessories. So you're trying to get that. You're trying to get your stone skin for your revivers, because stone skin revivers are very good, very important. Possibly something like this where you have stone skin and bolster. But yeah, Hydra is your next big thing, and the biggest reason for this is Mithrala. Mithrala is one of the best champions in the entire game, hands down. Just absolutely amazing. This is kind of a build idea you could do for her: high HP, high defense, high speed, high accuracy, and a little bit of resistance. Um, you want to fully book her immediately, and these are the masteries I would recommend for a general Mithrala, unless you're super endgame, which if you're watching this you're probably not, in which case you'd probably be going down into Eagle Eye. Getting Mithrala will help you through most of the roadmap, and especially in Dragon Hard, as my Dragon Hard team is going to be looking something like this. She's in there doing a lot of the damage, being one of the main poisoners, and just doing a lot of work. And at this point, guys, you know what? You're probably at the point where you're focusing, once you've gotten past all these things, you get your Mithrala, you're probably moving up almost into Brutal Hydra, you're finishing out Doom Tower, and you're in the late game. You get your Lydia, and up through all these things, the little things I hadn't mentioned is who's going to be your next 60, where are you going to focus your gear, like focus farming at little spurts. You want to be doing fusions along the way. Fusions are going to help you a ton. Champions I can point out immediately: people like Uko, people like Walking Tomb Drain, people like Newt. Amazing champions that definitely have changed my account and have helped with my progression just so much. From there, as I mentioned, your next 60 is going to be really focused on, as I mentioned before, if it's you need to get Spider done, you need to get Dragon done. I mentioned getting an Armiger up for both Fire Knight and Spider. Just getting your core 5 moving from there into other areas is how you're going to make sure of your 60s. And if you're not sure after that, you could join my Discord and ask. The link is in the description. Little plug. You could also go to Hell Hades' website, where he has some of the best information out of any other the best information out of any other site. Now, some of the ratings I don't quite agree with, but for the most part, you can listen to it. There's going to be overall great suggestions, great ways to get through things. And yeah, guys, that is just kind of a little guide on how progression works through Raid Shadow Legends, little things to work on as you go through it. This game is not a race, it is a marathon and a half. I've been playing for 4 years and I'm still not completely done with the game. I don't think I'll be done with the game for a very, very long time, as you guys are keeping me in it. You guys are keeping me making this content, having so much fun, and I couldn't thank you guys enough. That being said, I hope y'all learned something from this video. I hope y'all enjoy my content at this point, watching it all the way through. I have a feeling you do. And that being said, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, guys.